Media largely ignores Cuomo giving clemency to domestic terrorists. The news on former New York Democratic Governor Andrew Cuomo granting clemency to a member of a domestic terrorist organization went largely unreported by many mainstream media outlets. The few that did often left out the details of the crime and framed the story as his son having the possibility of reuniting with his incarcerated father. During his last day in office on Monday, Cuomo gave last-minute clemency to 6 people, including David Gilbert, the driver in the fatal 1981 Brinks robbery north of New York City that left 2 police officers and a guard killed. Gilbert was serving a 75 years to life sentence for his role in the crime as part of the Weather Underground, an organization responsible for several bombings throughout the 1970s. The decision drew quick backlash from New York state legislators, leading the statement to be withdrawn from the governor's website. Only a sociopath, such as Andrew Cuomo, would think that David Gilbert, a man who participated in a heinous attack on law-abiding citizens and law enforcement alike, deserves to be eligible for a pardon. New York State Assemblyman Mike Lawler said this controversial decision was largely ignored by mainstream media outlets. NBC, CBS, CNN, and MSNBC didn't mention the story on their television broadcasts. The few outlets that did cover the story omitted the details of Gilbert's crime and instead focused on the possibility of him being able to reunite with his son. San Francisco District Attorney Chesa Boudin celebrated Cuomo's decision to grant clemency to his father. "My heart is bursting. On the eve of my first child's birth, my dad, who's been in prison nearly my entire life, was granted clemency. He never intended harm, yet his crime devastated many families," Boudin tweeted. "My heart breaks for the families that can never get their loved ones back." The Washington Post notably reported the news under the headline, "San Francisco's top prosecutor was 3 when his dad went to prison. Cuomo just granted his father clemency." During his ascension to San Francisco District Attorney, a position formerly occupied by Vice President Harris, Boudin invoked his father's incarceration as a reason he assumed the role of prosecutor, and his relationship with his father has been intertwined in his political narrative. After decades visiting his parents in prison, this lawyer wants to be San Francisco's next DA, the Washington Post wrote. The Associated Press likewise featured Boudin heavily in its report of the news with no reference to the Weather Underground. Its piece also featured exclusive comments from Boudin himself. "On the eve of my first child's birth, my father, David Gilbert, has been granted clemency," Boudin said in an email to the Associated Press. "Although he never used a gun or intended for anyone to get hurt, my father's crime caused unspeakable harm and devastated the lives of many separate families. I will continue to keep those families in my heart." Meanwhile, although CNN did not feature exclusive statements from Boudin, its report on the story largely obscured Gilbert's sentence. The piece acknowledged that Gilbert was convicted on 3 counts of second-degree murder and 4 counts of first-degree robbery, but did not mention the victims or details on the crimes themselves. In addition, CNN did not reference Gilbert's connection to the Weather Underground. CNN did include Cuomo's statement where he cited Gilbert's significant contributions to AIDS education and prevention programs while in prison. "These clemencies make clear the power of redemption, encourage those who have made mistakes to engage in meaningful rehabilitation, and show New Yorkers that we can work toward a better future," Cuomo said. While Cuomo's clemency does not completely pardon Gilbert, it does allow Gilbert the possibility of parole. He will later appear before the state parole board to plead his case.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe